Hello, my name's Olivia Ton, and I'm one of the genetic counselors at Good Samaritan Hospital Medical Center. Today we're going to be talking about some of the frequently asked questions that I get about genetics and genetic testing. So let's begin. What's a gene? A gene is a specific sequence of DNA, similar to a sentence. DNA can be thought of as the letters that make up the gene sentence. Something that's important to know is that we have 2 of each of our genes. So you can think of this as like having a backup for every gene in our body. How does a gene work? It works by instructing the body how to make a specific product. In this case, it's called a protein. So as you can see on the screen, we start with a gene, and the body reads the gene, and it understands to make the protein product, and then the protein goes off and does a specific job or function within the body. A genetic mutation is a problematic change that alters the specific DNA sequence of a gene. This causes the gene's instructions to change, resulting in the gene not working as it's supposed to. So you remember how I mentioned that a gene is like a sentence? A mutation would be like a misspelling within that sentence. When someone has a genetic mutation, this can lead to the development of a specific disease or condition. There are 2 types of genetic tests: clinical genetic tests and informational genetic tests. When someone has a clinical genetic test, they are being evaluated for a specific condition or perhaps a predisposition to a disease. This requires being perhaps physically evaluated or having their family history reviewed by a healthcare provider, and that provider will then order the test. The results from this test can alter your medical care. Informational genetic tests can help determine your ancestry or whether you have a particular feature like curly hair or dimples, or whether you have a particular wellness trait like having difficulty metabolizing caffeine. So these results don't necessarily impact your medical care, and also you don't really need a healthcare professional to order them. How do clinical genetic tests work? These tests will analyze 1, 2, or maybe even more than 10 genes at one time. We need a saliva or a blood sample to run the test. There are 3 common types of analysis. The first is checking for a gene letter by letter. This is called sequencing. The second is looking for extra or missing pieces of the gene. This is called deletion duplication analysis. Lastly, you can have your gene scanned for common mutations. This is called genotyping. Sequencing and deletion duplication analysis are usually done together, as this is considered the most complete way to analyze a gene for mutations. The length of time for you to get results back is going to vary depending which kind of test you have. So what types of results can come back? A positive result means that 1 or more mutations was identified in 1 or more of the genes you had checked. Negative result means that there were no abnormal changes identified in your genes. A variant of uncertain significance can also be identified. This means that a change has been found, but the impact of the change on the gene is unclear at this time. How are genetic conditions inherited? Well, there are 2 main types of inheritance: dominant and recessive. In a dominant condition, having 1 gene with a mutation is enough for that person to be affected with the condition. When someone has a dominant condition and they want to have children, they have a 50% chance or 1 out of 2 chance for their child to have the condition also. Alternatively, they have a 50% chance or 1 out of 2 chance for their child to not have the condition. In a recessive condition, a person needs to have inherited both genes with a mutation in order to have the condition itself. When a person only has 1 mutation on 1 of their genes, they're called a carrier. If a person who's a carrier has a partner who's also a carrier, they have a chance for their children to have the condition itself. That chance is 25% or 1 out of 4. There is also a 1 out of 4 chance, or 25% chance, that their future children will not have the condition, nor will they be a carrier. There is a 50% chance that any of their children would be carriers like their parents. One of the most frequent questions I get is, what is genetic counseling? Genetic counseling is a discussion, sometimes can be lengthy, where we'd review your personal and medical history, discuss whether that history is suggestive of a genetic condition. We talk about the inheritance and what genes are involved and what it would mean if you do have the condition. You may meet with a genetic counselor or a physician who specializes in genetics. This person's called a medical geneticist. If you choose to do testing, then a sample would be submitted at that time. And when results come back, you will meet with that person, the geneticist or the genetic counselor, to discuss them. Thank you so much for listening, and please contact us if you have any questions.